Well, this is the video the world has been waiting for. How and where was Max Verstappen finding his lap time in the 2024 Brazilian Grand Prix? How could he execute 17 fastest laps towards the end of that race and have a choice of 9 fastest laps that were actually good enough for the fastest lap itself? In this video, we've got a telemetry analysis and an onboard analysis. I'm going to show you exactly where Max Verstappen was finding that lap time over the rest of the field. So if you're interested in knowing what this is, definitely keep watching. Welcome back to the channel, guys. My name is Martin Villari and I'm a specialist technical coach and mentor for open formula drivers. This is an assessment in wet weather driving and Max Verstappen excelled it. There's 2 key areas and 2 parts of the racetrack where I think Max was getting the upper hand on the rest of the field. Probably the section through turns 1, 2, and 3 and the section at turns 10 and 11. If I just give you an overview of like what it takes to drive in the wet and be a good driver in the wet, the very first thing you need to have mapped in your head is where is the rubber? Where is the normal racing line? Where would that be slippery? And then that then unlocks and gives you the blueprint for where you need to go and what steering inputs you need to put in to get around this rubber and zigzag your way through the racetrack. We're going to start with turns 1, 2, and 3. And as we go through, I'm just going to bring up a few images of the difference in steering lock between Max Verstappen and Lando Norris. The only onboards I have are Max's fastest lap towards the end of the race and Lando Norris's pole lap. And whilst they're slightly different lap times, they do still give you an indication on what the drivers are trying to achieve. They're driving with purpose out there. At least that's what Max is doing. And he's trying to achieve a certain thing, which I can see in his technique on his fastest lap. So we are going to take a look at that one against Lando Norris's pole lap. Again, if I can just take you into the mind of Max Verstappen, what he's thinking is I need to get a good run through turn 3 and get a good exit out of turn 2 so that I can just get down to turn 4 as quickly as possible. Max is really exit focused in this situation. So what he's trying to do, like I said before, is zigzag his way across the racetrack. Let's bring up the turn 1 onboard comparisons. And what you should be able to see is that Max has a lot more steering in the car into turn 1. He's turned in slightly wider, slightly later, and the objective is to therefore cut across the racing line between turn 1 and 2, and again put an additional armful of lock, heavy steering lock into turn 2 as well. Why? Again, because he wants to zigzag and cut his way through turn 2 so that he can just be very slightly offset from the rubber through the long turn 3. That's the goal that we spoke about before. What that's going to mean is that Max can get his foot down harder, get the steering wheel straighter, he can generate more downforce as the speed builds through turn 3, and he can get a beautiful exit down to turn 4. So he's aware of where the rubber is, and he's aware of where he needs to be to get good straight line traction. As a result of carrying that additional steering lock through turn 2 and keeping the car tighter, he's off the rubber. And if we have a look at Lando through turn 3, you can actually see that he gets a few swappers and a few moments through that section of racetrack. He can't get his foot down as hard and as fast as what Max Verstappen can because he's not slightly offset from the rubber. Max has just allowed a little bit of breathing room, so he's off the rubber. He's on the cleaner piece of racetrack and he can keep the steering wheel straight and just go through turn 3 with no fuss. If I just show you on the side of the screen here, the issues that Lando's having to deal with as he goes through turn 3, a lot of swappers, which means a lot of time getting back out of the throttle, getting the car straight and settled again, and then getting the car walking forward again. Let's bring up the turn 1, 2, and 3 telemetry, which highlights exactly this technique that I'm talking about. Now I've chosen lap 44 from Max Verstappen versus Lando Norris's pole lap because they were more comparable in terms of lap time. So in the telemetry, I do have more choice and I can select the laps I want. But look, guys, the technique is exactly the same. Firstly, have a look at the speed trace. Look where that blue line from Max Verstappen is ahead and above of the speed trace of Lando Norris. You'll just see Max climbing, and there's actually a little peak there, like a little plateau of speed for Lando Norris, and that's where he's just getting out of the throttle. If you look at the bottom, the throttle trace, he's just had to get out of the throttle a little bit to correct a slide, and that's plateaued his speed. All the meanwhile, Max is getting more and more throttle down. And if you look at the delta graph, you'll see Lando actually had the upper hand through turn 1, but Max is soaking that delta back all the way down to turn 4. And that's why the delta swings completely into Max Verstappen's favor through turn 3. Now, a similar sort of thing is happening through turns 10 and 11. Like we said at the very start of turns 1, 2, and 3, identify where the rubber is and then work out where you want to go. So the rubber is hugging turn 11. So you definitely don't want to be there while you've got steering lock on. That's a very dangerous place to be. That's where Fernando Alonso crashed in qualifying, remember, because he was on the rubber. So what does Max do? He keeps the car really tight with a lot of steering lock in through turn 10, at least compared to Lando. And it's got nothing to do with turn 10. It's more about setting up a nice, clean, smooth run through turn 11 off the rubber. That's going to allow him to keep the speed higher. That's going to allow him to keep the downforce higher. That's going to mean he doesn't get any snaps or any surprises through turn 11, which is a very dangerous part of the racetrack. And once again, if you have a look at Lando Norris, he gets a bit of oversteer through turn 11, which he's correcting as well. Peter Windsor talks about this, and he says that Max is an anticipatory driver and Lando Norris is more reflexy type driver. He's absolutely spot on with that regard. Max is anticipating for what's going to happen. He's 2, 3, 4 corners ahead of Lando Norris's thinking, and he doesn't need to react, therefore, to any surprises because there are no surprises. Whereas Lando's driving the lap more corner by corner basis, and for any surprises that pop up, he has to react on the spot to those. That costs you lap time. If we just bring up the telemetry comparison now for turns 10 and 11, you'll see that exactly the same thing is happening that was happening through turns 1, 2, and 3. Max has just got a nice clean run through turn 11. Have a look at the additional speed that he can carry through this corner. That's where Max is getting the delta in his favor. That's where he's finding the advantage over the competition. He's sacrificed a little bit of turn 10 just to have the car exactly where he needs it to be through turn 11. That is off the rubber to keep the downforce active, to have as minimal steering as possible, and to have the easiest time through that challenging corner whilst you're turning and accelerating at the same time. If we just finish by bringing up the track dominance map, everything that I've just said and explained is highlighted in the track dominance. Anywhere where it's blue is in Max Verstappen's advantage, and anywhere where it's orange is in Lando Norris's advantage. You can see quite clearly out of turn 3, it's all blue all the way down to turn 4, Max soaking up the exit delta. And again, through turn 11, Max is finding a lot of time through there. He's got the car nice and straight on the run down to turn 12. And that's exactly where Max Verstappen was finding the lap time against Lando Norris and likely against the rest of the field as well. So to summarize, guys, I think those were the two most critical parts of the racetrack where Max was finding the most time on his competition. The run through turn 3 and the run through turn 11, both where you're building speed and you've got steering lock on at the same time. That's where, things can get out of hand. And Max just managed that situation beautifully. The car's platform was very well balanced. The aerodynamic platform was very stable, steering in the car was minimum, and he was on the right line crucially, which is slightly offset from the normal racing line, just to get off all of that really slippery rubber that ordinarily sits on the racing line. I hope you learned something from this video, and thank you so much for watching. If you could, please wipe your feet on the way out and leave me a comment, subscribe to this channel, give the video a thumbs up as well. All of these things help boost the channel. I am going to be doing race analyses moving forward. I am going to also preview the Las Vegas Grand Prix as well live on this channel. So please do subscribe so you don't miss those. Thanks again. I'll see you in the next one.